Hi, it's Michael, the host of Impact Hustlers. And before we dive into today's episode, I'd like to ask you for a favor. If you get any value out of the episode today, please consider sharing it with a friend who would benefit from it. Or leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. We're an independent podcast and are investing a lot of time and effort in publishing inspiring new episodes every week. We can only do this because of people who support us. And now there is an easy way to do so. You can give us a small tip or a regular donation to make sure we can keep going. Every penny is invested into making the podcast even bigger and better. And you can do so on buymeacoffee.com/Impact Hustlers. buymeacoffee.com/Impact Hustlers. Thanks very much for your support. Thanks for listening. And let's get into the show.
Impact Hustlers, the podcast on entrepreneurs and changemakers that are creating solutions to the world's biggest problems. Impact Hustlers is brought to you by Fast Forward 2030 and Real Changers. Visit fastforward2030.com to learn how to include the global goals into your business model and realchangers.com to find talent and careers with impact. And this is your host, Michael Shafroth.
In today's episode, I speak to Adele Archer, CEO and founder of Eterneva, a company helping people keep the memory of their deceased loved ones by creating diamonds from their ashes. The startup is based in Austin, Texas, and was recently backed by Mark Cuban as part of the Shark Tank show. It's great to have you on Impact Hustlers, Adele.
Thank you so much. So wonderful to be on. Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much. So first of all, I'm sure many listeners just listened to my short introduction and were wondering, what exactly are you doing? So just probably in disbelief. So please give us a quick introduction to your company and what exactly you're doing.
It's so true. So what we do, I always kind of say that we really are in the business of celebrating remarkable lives, whether that's a pet or a human, by making a diamond from the carbon in their ashes or hair. So it's a really special way to honor, a connection that was really important and special to you after they're gone.
Wow. Obviously, this is an idea that I personally haven't come across before. So I'd really love to learn on the origins of this story and where did it all start? Where did the idea come from? What's your personal story behind this?
Yeah, absolutely. So my business partner and I, Garrett, we're kind of millennial tech founders. We used to be in technology here in Austin, and we were actually starting our own lab-grown diamond company because we just saw that as a really, interesting and up-and-coming market, kind of a more sustainable approach to diamonds. And then as we were starting this company, I had a really close friend, she was actually my business mentor, get diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she passed away. And so completely in my personal life, Tracy was, if you count on one hand the people that are most influential to who you are as a person, like she was definitely one of those people for me. And so she had a bit of her ashes sent to the people that she was really closest with because she wasn't married, didn't have kids. It was, really relationships like hers and mine that were the closest to her. So I received some of her ashes and, she said like, hey, just go do something that you think both of us would really love and that would be really meaningful. So completely in a personal exercise, of my life, I was trying to figure out, what could I do to honor somebody that was so important and so special to me. And I wasn't finding anything, for probably about 6 months, I was researching what you could do with ashes and, nothing just felt, it all felt kind of trinkety and cheap. And so one night over dinner, one of the diamond scientists we were working with just mentioned, hey, it's actually possible to extract carbon from ashes and grow a real diamond. And it was just like, get out. I've been trying to figure out what I do for Tracy. And it just, it kind of felt like life happening for you at that point. And so I went to go start this really honestly as a customer. There was one company that was doing it at the time. And, it was just I think what was really important about this experience was I realized that they weren't very transparent about how they were doing what they were doing. They didn't really ask who this was for and like what she meant to me. And, overall, it just was not, it was kind of off-putting. But, the more that we looked into it, we're like, gosh, the science around this is totally legit. And this feels like a really unbelievably meaningful thing you could do for somebody. And, these guys just maybe are not doing it right. And so, we decided like, hey, we're the customer. We totally get this. We come from a world where the experience is kind of everything. And so I think we could do this a lot better. And that was really how we decided to pivot our business. And Tracy was the first diamond that we grew.
Wow. That's a really impressive story, and a personal one as well. Then I think the interesting thing that struck me about your story and about your product is that most startups have to deal with some sort of behavior change or convincing people that they should use their product. I think with you, it seems like just this massive new thing that people are not used to. People are used to diamond rings. Mm-hmm. People are not used to wearing the deceased ones on their fingers. How do you think about that? And what did you learn on your journey from idea to building this company?
Yeah, I think we've just learned so much from our customers. They really guide everything that we do, and we're very, very customer focused. And what we realized was that you don't actually do a diamond for everybody in your life. It's really for the most important special connection, somebody that, just knew how to live life in a really unbelievable way. And you want to have a continuing connection and bond to them after they're gone. I'd say about 80% of the diamonds that we do for people are unfortunately people we've lost too soon. And so, you think about like a husband who lost his wife, or, a mother that lost her son, like what could be possibly more therapeutic than having, their diamond over your heart for the rest of your life, or, their diamond that you look down every single day, whether you're driving or you're typing, and, you get to have a moment with them. So I think it kind of, when you start to think about the psychology of having something that's bright and positive and beautiful and, can bring up good memories, like looking at a diamond just feels different than looking at an urn full of ashes at home. And so it just really serves people. They get to have their loved one with them everywhere they go, through all the future milestones, important days, and feel that connection point. And then I think too, like what we've really focused on is creating a whole experience around the diamond. And, I think it's helped us learn a lot about grief, and it's helped us realize, hey, we have an opportunity to really serve somebody over a journey that's otherwise really tough.
Let's zoom in on that, actually, and designing for customers that are basically at the moment when they talk to you going through one of the darkest moments in their lives and one of the most tragic losses, most likely, to them. How do you build a company for that, where you market to people that are not in a great place in their life and they've lost a loved one, and are they even thinking about this actively like you did in your journey? Or is this something where you have to do quite a lot of showing them that this could be a really good way of coping and going through these hard times?
Yeah, I think, people absolutely are looking for more meaningful and personal ways to honor their loved ones. I don't think there's been no innovation in this industry for, hundreds of years. And in a world where we're becoming less traditional and more spiritual, and, we really value our connections, and we really want, we want to do something meaningful here. So people are absolutely looking. But I think what we really surprise people around is how we are so much different than anything else they're experiencing in the, quote, kind of death industry, because we are bright and we're positive, and we just take a different tone. A customer gets on the call with us and we don't ask like, we don't say, oh, I'm sorry, my condolences, and what happened. We ask, hey, who were they as a person? And, I'd love to hear about what made them remarkable, because that's what we are interested in, is kind of the remarkable character that you're bringing to us. Because clearly, if they're going to be a diamond, they're amazing. So we kind of see it as our responsibility to help you honor them. And then as we've gone through, we just realized, like, we were sending pictures and videos and updates. Like, it's not a short process. It takes about 7 months to do. And we were just blowing people away. Like, they loved the journey. And when you go from losing somebody and you're in the darkest period of your life to having something positive to look forward to, and an update, and, a journey to get to go on, and an outlet of a team that really cares and genuinely wants to celebrate your loved one, it can really help kind of shift that experience that you're having while you're grieving.
Mm-hmm. How does this journey look like from the day that somebody gets in touch with you to the end of the 7 months where they receive the delivery of the diamond? How's that journey work?
Yeah. So first, they will reach out to our team, and that's where it is really important. They actually talk to us, because they won't even realize how how important it is for our team to get to know them and their loved one, and really learn as much about them, because our whole team is going to know their story as we go through the process. So that's kind of the first step. And then they'll order our welcome kit, which has everything they need to pick out their diamond, and then package up the ashes or the hair that we're going to make the diamond from, and then they'll return that. And then we do actually what we call an inauguration. So on both Instagram and Facebook Live every week, we're telling the stories of the amazing people that are joining the Eterneva family, and putting their picture up on our wall, and like telling the whole world basically about their story. And then as we go through the journey, we first start with, we're extracting the carbon from the ashes. That in and of itself is super intricate, and we video that process. And that's kind of an exciting reveal, is to be like, look at their carbon. And then we have these amazing machines that are replicating the same conditions as under the earth. And so that's effectively turning that carbon. It's going to be crystallizing on top of a diamond seed and growing into a raw diamond. And then we mine it out, and we're showing our customer on video, here's what they look like and in their raw form. And then we have it cut and polished and graded, because it's a real diamond. They can be laser engraved with their loved one's name. And we can also do a bunch of different colors. So a lot of our customers will, choose to do a color that reminds them of their loved one, whether it's the color of their eyes or their favorite color, and then set in jewelry and actually hand delivered home at the end of the process, which we call the homecoming. And, it's kind of this great crescendo of, symbolically their loved one coming home again.
So you control the delivery as well, for example, or you're working with partners on that?
Yep. So we have a nationwide courier service we partner with. And so then you're not just getting, a FedEx box on your doorstep. Right. It's somebody is literally handing a beautiful package that, because it's a big day. It's a very special day. It's an emotional day. And, for a lot of people, it's very cathartic. So we want that last mile to feel super special.
Absolutely. Give us some example, maybe an example from one of your customers, and what are the journeys they go through, and how has it made a difference? Has your product made a difference to their lives?
Absolutely. So, I think a really powerful, example would be one of our customers, Jackie Sams. She lost her 19-year-old daughter, Katie. And that's a really tough loss when you lose a child unexpectedly. I think that's where you really see kind of culturally, we're not so great with supporting somebody through a loss like that, because everyone gets really awkward and we don't know how to talk about it. And, so everyone around her stopped talking about Katie. And I think that was what was really tough. And so by having a journey that she was going on and, effectively doing this process, it became a legacy project that her whole community could comfortably engage on. And they could say, hey, Jackie, how's Katie's diamond doing? Do you have any pictures? Do you have any, updates? And she was so happy to share them. And, it was something she was so proud of. And, then when she got her diamond home, she put so much thought into her setting. It was really, really cool. Like, she got to design something that felt very Katie. She had a blue diamond because her daughter loved the ocean. And, she designed this antique kind of estate ring because her daughter loved antique jewelry. And it's just such a statement ring that she says, once a week, somebody stops and says, wow, what a fabulous ring. And that is her way of getting to talk about Katie every single time, so it's opening up a conversation that previously she wouldn't have been able to have with people.
Amazing. Let's shift the focus a bit towards the entrepreneurial journey and the difficulties of building a company like that. I imagine with building a company like Eterneva, there's tons of difficulties that you go through as with any company. I can imagine there being legal limitations. I can imagine there being things to figure out around how to communicate this properly. What's been the hardest lesson for you to learn throughout this whole process?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think you're absolutely right. Like the science of this is ridiculously difficult, and you can't just go find the right folks with a Google search. So I mean, it took us probably years of just knocking down doors and, asking for intros and hunting down the best scientists all over the world, and convincing them to get involved with us, because so many of them are just focused on regular diamonds and, why get into such a sensitive area? But I think a lot of it comes back to if you can really tell the story about how you're here to change a culture. This is not just a business. This is, us shifting the way everybody views death and grief, and it helps somebody through that time and honors remarkable people. It's just really cool to see how people will sign up for that. And so I think that that's a big deal. We talk about creating raving fans all the time, from our customers to our suppliers to our investors, and making everybody a raving fan and just really bought into our mission and our vision. But I think another piece that is challenging, but is a great opportunity. Is this was a space where there was a couple prior players, and they were not transparent about how they were doing what they were doing, and so the onus is really on us, as a company that is completely committed to transparency, to kind of just write some, like there's, we've had naysayers in our space questioning the science of what we're doing. And so being able to prove out, science is 100% on our side. So we're going to show that and be transparent about that, and, completely change a narrative where previously there wasn't a whole lot of transparency.
Would you say that's your main differentiation against other companies, or do you have a quite unique process of making these diamonds as well versus competitors, or what's your main focus on differentiating?
Our main differentiator is the experience that we've created around the diamond. And we realize that experience is as important as the diamond itself. And it just really focuses on, we boil it down to grief wellness, basically, is how could we be serving somebody on their grief journey to add some brightness, some positivity, some areas that they can focus, and honestly come out the other side with a bit more, like having grown a bit and a little bit more levity than getting stuck in a cycle of depression.
Amazing. Now you've expanded to different customer segments, actually. So you, both humans, but you also focus on animals. How did that come about? Pets, actually. So how did it come about that you started producing rings for deceased pets as well?
Yeah. I mean, they really organically happen hand in hand, like from the beginning. And I think we've just seen such a shift in the last, 30, 40 years of the relationships that we have to our animals. They went from kind of the doghouse all the way to inside to the bed to now being more pampered than many of us. And so, I just think I see, particularly in millennials, a lot of people will have a pet first, and that becomes their first child before they have a human baby in their 30s. And so that pet has been with you through every single phase of your life, from college to your first job to moving across the country to maybe even getting married and, God forbid, getting a divorce. And, they've been with you through the thick and the thin. And, so when people come to us to do this for a pet, it's not just any pet. This was really their most important, one of their more important connections in a lifetime. And so it is definitely more personal. It's less about the community and the legacy project. It's more about having, a connection point to, somebody that was so important to you. And for our pet parents, it's really helping them feel understood and, not, they otherwise they get judged for grieving a pet and that loss can be just as tough as grieving a loved one.
Mm-hmm. When I spoke to my girlfriend earlier, actually last week, when we were scheduling the podcast, and one of the first ideas that came to mind when I told her that you are either using ashes or hair to create those diamonds was engagement rings, right? Is that something that you tried out, or is it maybe on your roadmap?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've done engagement rings before, in a couple different circumstances. One where we actually had a pet influencer that, she loves her dog so much that she wanted him part of her special day. And we made her engagement diamond from the carbon in his fur. So that was one of our engagement diamonds we made. We also make engagement diamonds, if somebody lost a parent and they, are wanting their mom to still be there to walk down the aisle with them. It's a really special way to have them be a part of that day. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. We can do engagement diamonds from the carbon in hair, two fiancés together in the diamond. I think so much of it is around having something that just feels really meaningful to you. This is kind of a diamond that honors a very important connection in your life. And whenever you look at it, it should bring up, more kind of positive memories and feelings and, and be that kind of anchor point of a continuing bond with someone. So that could be somebody that's still with you or, somebody that's passed.
What do you think is the key behavior change in people? You've mentioned millennials think about this a bit differently than maybe previous generations. What's the key behavior change that's driving your success? What do you think is different now than maybe 30 years ago when people had the same situations?
It's really interesting. I think regardless of age, people get this if they've experienced a really close loss. If they've had somebody really important to them pass away before they should, they get this right away. And then, I do think, though, millennials get this, on a level that, I think they really do value that being able to do something meaningful, not just, doing something because you were told to, or doing something because your religion, said that this is what we do, or tradition says this is what we do, or, just doing something that doesn't feel like it suits you or your loved one. It's like, what is that thing, diamond or otherwise, that feels like it's the perfect, expression of this important person and their connection and how I want to, be with them. And so I think they are demanding that a bit more of, memorial options and ways that they're going to remember their loved one going forward, because they just want it to feel right,
I can imagine, yeah. Do you see this having an impact on the wider end-of-life industry, that other players are starting to change the way they address customers, and there's a different set of products being sold?
Absolutely. I mean, as a company, our mission is really to change a culture around death, grief, and remembrance. So we're not going to have done our job if we haven't completely shifted, the culture around death. And I think, we definitely are seeing, some openness for the first time ever, really, in the U.S. We're starting to talk about things like there's a death positive movement happening, being like talking about death and being okay with it and thinking about your end of life. And, I think what Eterneva is really doing that's unique is that while a lot of people are thinking about, hey, talk about your death and think about what you want that experience to look and feel like, we're kind of on the other side of that, where it's like, okay, now that somebody's, that we've lost someone, what about the people that are left behind? And what about that kind of grief wellness journey that, that there's something to be thought about there, almost from a mental health standpoint. So I think that that's kind of our own unique contribution to that conversation. But, you see the Global Wellness Summit, they're considered like one of the, kind of top authorities in trends that are happening in the wellness space. They do an annual report every year being like, here are the top 10 wellness trends we're seeing. Mm-hmm. And for the first time ever, dying well was a wellness trend last year, and it will be again this year. And we're one of the only brands representing that. So, I think between kind kind of last year, we were, the first ever death care company on a national magazine in circulation. And, then we were on Shark Tank last month, and being able to bring death to a national stage, I really do think times are changing, and we're honored to, be a driving force behind that.
Yeah. Tell us a bit more about the Shark Tank experience. By now, I think the episode has aired, so it's out there. How was that experience, and what got Mark Cuban to invest in the end? What do you think was the one thing that got him to invest?
Yeah, gosh, what a cool and crazy life experience. Yeah, and I think that, like, if I go back and I really reflect on it, I think that that's the piece that I'm just like, really delighted by, is that on a national stage and national television show, they're open and willing to talk about death as a topic, which I don't think would be the same, 5 years ago. And so I think that was something to just kind of take a moment and be grateful for. And, then like the experience was crazy. And I think everybody overall, it was really well received across the Sharks. Being able to tell them, share these amazing people. Like, we actually in our pitch had all of this footage, of loved ones that are no longer here that we've done diamonds for. And, being able to humanize people and help you appreciate and realize, like, this is not a quote dead person. This is, somebody who is full of life, and, like, let's kind of share their character with the world. I think that was just super powerful. And I think that Mark, he is a very forward-looking investor. His whole portfolio is mostly in tech and AI. And so I think he's got an eye for, what are the technologies of the future. And I really think that that's what he saw in Eterneva, is realizing, it's about time that, kind of our culture and the death industry hasn't changed in hundreds of years, and it's just not in line with the modern consumer. And so, Eterneva is really an answer to that, and kind of a technology and a way of the future.
Amazing. It's been really great to hear about your journey. And I have one last question for you, looking at the future. So if you think about the next 10 years in the world, how does the world look like in 10 years if Eterneva is successful?
Well, we're certainly the foremost brand that you think of whenever it comes to memorializing a loved one and honoring them, and, also serving somebody through a grief wellness journey. So, I can see us getting into, other areas of adding value to people, like, potentially launching grief wellness retreats, and, kind of doubling down on how do we serve someone through a very important, journey that they're going on, and ensuring that they are growing through grief rather than, spiraling down. So I think there's a lot of thought leadership. There's a lot of new innovation and product development, and, partnerships to be launched, and, conversations to be started. And I think that this is only the beginning. The diamond is a starting point, and there's a lot more to come.
Amazing. Thank you very much for joining us. All the best to you and Garrett and the whole team. I'm sure this is just the beginning, and we'll hear a lot about you. I hope you're going to be in the UK soon as well.
Heck yeah, on our way.
On your way. Perfect. Thanks very much for joining me today, and all the best.
Thank you. Likewise.
This was Impact Hustlers, the podcast on entrepreneurs and change makers that are creating solutions to the world's biggest problems. Impact Hustlers is brought to you by Fast Forward 2030 and Real Changers. Visit fastforward2030.com to learn how to include the global goals into your business model, and realchangers.com to find talent and careers with impact.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share the episode, leave us a review, and consider becoming a supporter on buymeacoffee.com/impacthustlers. This means a lot to me. Thank you very much for tuning in, and see you next time. Bye.